so we've got the 3 questions. We're going to take them three at a time, and I'm going to ask the panel if anyone particularly wants to start. Peter?
In terms of the
I'll give you 3 minutes.
3 minutes, right. In terms of the one piece of national legislation that I think would be practical to try and influence and actually campaign to get changed is on what we're doing at the moment with this quantitative easing. Now, I actually graduated, economics was one of the disciplines that I studied, and back in the day it was called printing money. And effectively this quantitative easing has been used to put onto bank balance sheets, and Goldman Sachs and various other merchant banks make a nice cut out of it, and it makes their figures look, I wouldn't say healthier, but a lot less bad than they would otherwise. But it doesn't end up going into the real economy. Now, the person that coined the term quantitative easing and brought the idea out is actually now advocating, and you can go on the New Economics Foundation and read this report, is now actually advocating that quantitative easing goes directly into the economy. And that's what we're advocating. It has to go directly in, and it can go directly in. If you can imagine, you say to a council that's about to make £80 million in cuts, actually no, what we're going to do is give you a dose of £80 million of quantitative easing, so you don't have to make those cuts. People are going to stay in jobs, the local economy is going to be healthier, and you're going to build confidence again in the economy in the way that it's getting gradually sucked out and destroyed at the moment. So that would be the one thing that I would go for, because I think it's achievable in terms of even persuading this coalition government, which is now sitting there going, what do we do next? Because they really don't have a clue. So it's something that we could campaign on, and I think that's the direction that it could get pushed into. Secondly, in terms of the immigration overpopulation issue, you can't get away from the fact that there are over 7 billion people on the planet. If you follow the UN projections, we're going to peak somewhere around 10 billion people on the planet, somewhere between 2050 and 2100. All right, so this is the projections. But when people say to me, oh, no, too many immigrants in this country, I'd say to them, well, what about the 20 million people in Bangladesh that in this month have been displaced through flooding? Flooding that will have been aggravated by climate change, which will have been caused by us. What do you expect them to do? Do you expect them to walk into the water and drown? Where do you expect these people to go? Do you expect people to just die, or do you expect people to move and look for a better life? And if we were to take just our fair share based on the world's population, if we were to say, well, we're 1% of the world's population, let's take our fair share of that 20 million that's displaced. That's 200,000 people. So what I'd be saying, if we're addressing immigration, we've got to just challenge head-on the racist immigration and just say we're not going to accept that. But what we do is we say, actually, look at the push factors. What are pushing people out of the country? Why did my family leave Scotland in 1983? It's because there were no jobs. And I think people will understand that. And they may not agree with us, but I think we just have to be frank and honest with them. Clive, yes, good question as always, and I think I've answered this a few times. But what you say actually came up in a room. I was speaking in a Compass room just down that corridor on the right, which is now getting refurbed. It was a Compass meeting, and I'm sitting there answering this question about, what should we be doing on benefits, and I said citizens' income. And I explained that we take more tax off the richest in society, we redistribute it, it's there as citizens' income, it raises aggregate demand, and it makes society more equal. And Lisa Nandy, the Labour MP, is furiously scribbling, going, this is good. So it is a good idea. The time will come, and we'll continue to speak about it. Thank you.
I have 30 seconds left, Peter. I might give you that at some point.
Okay. Well, Alex's question was first. I can't read what you're writing now. Oh, well, yes, it would be to do with the banks. We've been talking about ring-fencing retail banks from the casino banking arm, yeah? Well, I don't believe they should be ring-fenced. I believe they should be completely separated. Now, these are policies that are going to come in over the next 4 years. The Glass-Steagall Act, which was invoked in America a couple of decades ago, separated the banks then. And I believe we should be separating them now. If there's going to be any credibility left in the banking sector, ring fencing ain't going to be good enough, and that is my true belief. Immigration, overpopulation. Well, where I live, you'll get accosted in the street, and one woman came up to me when I was camping in May, and she said, "Hello," she said, "I don't want you to think I'm a racist, but we got to get rid of these parkies." Okay, now, I mean, let's just be honest, you know, most people aren't Greens, and we have to answer all these questions. I'm very concerned about the negativity that's spread by the hate mail and so many of the political parties who use immigration as a weapon to pull and push public opinion. I'm all for immigration. My family left Italy because of the fascists. People leave their countries for valid reasons, either just for a better life or because of corruption, which in Pakistan is rife, and I do meet a lot of people from Pakistan in Newport who are just trying to get to a fair life, an uncorrupt life, a life when they can call a policeman because someone's walked off with their child and they don't have to pay him. We don't have this news. All we get is numbers about immigration. And in terms of overpopulation, well, yeah, there's a lot of us. All our problems, our climate and environmental problems, are so large because there are so many mouths to feed and so many feet pitter-pattering around the planet. I'm not afraid of it, but I believe the solution is the education of women. No woman wants 15 children. Believe me, I've had a few. No woman wants 15 children, but why does she? First of all, she doesn't know she can control it. Secondly, she's living in a land where half of them are going to die anyway. And thirdly, she's going to grow old early, and she's going to need children to do the work she does, which in many poor countries, the women do all the agricultural work, or 95% of it.
Sorry, that's
the Olympics just kicked off.
I'm prepared to turn it off.
Okay, so I'll just, citizens' income, I've read Clive's book, I love it, I'm completely for it.
Thank you, sorry about that.
I'd like a musical accompaniment.
And that's it.
I'm not quite sure how I can follow that alarm. Not quite as musical. But to start on citizens' income, this is something I use very often on the doorstep. In fact, I can claim to have recruited Matty Midford, who's now the campaigns coordinator of the Green Party executive, who happens to live 2 floors above me in the same block of flats. It was actually standing on her doorstep talking to her about citizens' income that convinced her to join the Green Party. And I was also thinking back to a Norwich by-election that I was canvassing in, I've forgotten which one. And I was speaking on the doorstep to a young guy of 21 or 22. And he, was basically unemployed but had a few days' work now and then at the market. And he said, "So what's a Green councillor going to do for me then?" And, I had a list of things to talk about, how we were going to make the roads safer and this and that. But it clearly wasn't going to do the job. And I explained to him about citizens' income. And I particularly explained to him how citizen income eliminates all of those benefit traps that mean people very often, if you actually, get a few days' work, then you lose your job seeker's allowance, and then it takes 6 weeks to come back, and you get stuck into debt, and you have to get loan shark just to get enough money to eat, and you're just utterly trapped and utterly in a mess. And people are actually forced into the black economy because you simply can't survive on the casualised, uneven, uncertain work money that's coming in now. Citizens' income just eliminates all of that. And much more than that, if you look at what our real problems in society today are, people feel insecure. People feel like they don't know whether they're going to be okay next week, next month, next year. And if you say to them, you will always have enough basic, decent money to live on, then you're basically taking away a huge source of stress and worry and concern in society. So, as Clive, as you know from me previously, I'm very much a proponent of citizens' income. In terms of immigration, I think we have to listen and try and draw out what people are really concerned about. Where I live is Somers Town. It's basically the last poor community left in central London. It's where the railway workers used to live between Euston and King's Cross stations. And you get immigration on the doorstep an awful lot. And you try and pull out what people are really concerned about, and they're concerned about housing and the fact that their kids actually live, miles out in Zone 6 or Zone 8 or somewhere out in Essex because there's no social housing in London. And so you say, hey, the problem isn't immigrants, the problem is the government has failed to invest in social housing, the government has failed to invest in the services that you need. And I think we very much have to, migrants are another group. I was talking about benefit recipients and the disabled. Migrants are another group that the Green Party really has to speak up for because nobody else is. The fact is, we're going into a scheme, this government is introducing what amounts to a German-style guest worker program. If you're a non-EU national...
Sorry, that's your time done.
All right, I'm just going to finish this point, because I was interrupted by that. If you're a non-EU national, in 2016, if you're not earning more than £37,000, you are going to be shipped out of the country after 6 years. That means half the school teachers, half the nurses, all of those people being shipped out. That's just one of the things that's absolutely treating migrants dreadfully, and we have to speak up for that. And Alex, I know I didn't get to your question, but I will another time.
Okay, I'm going to take the next round of questions because we are really short of time. Can we have 3 more questions, please?
Robert, Central Lancs. There's a motion at the autumn conference to make the leader of the Green Party of England and Wales, if it's passed, they'll receive financial support from the Green Party. I'd like to ask the candidates, do they agree with that? And if so, why? And what amount do you think that should be capped at?
Okay.
Nigel Robbins, Hayside Green Party. Could the candidates outline their vision for a Green Party political strategy beyond Target to Win?
And are there any women who'd like to ask a question? Yes. I'll have you, yeah?
Hi, Kate Sweeney from Caldervale. Caroline Lucas, I believe, once said that Green Party members divided into what she called fluffy and spiky. What do you understand by those terms, and where would you put yourself, each of the candidates, on the spiky and fluffy?
Can we have another question and we'll finish with that one? Yeah? Lady at the back there?
Yeah, this is Taylor from Terry. Should we use the Localism Act at all? And if not, what should the Green Party alternative be?
Can I just confirm that we heard that? Should we move to the Localism Act? Did you say?
Use it.
Should we use it?
What would the Green Party alternative be?
Okay.
You squeeze in an extra question for the sake of diversity.
But you are, anything. Have you got one?
Yeah, okay. Do you think that the Green Party possesses the cultural sensitivity to speak to diverse communities in this country, based on what I've heard today?